Pardon the POV. I'm Rob, and my head hurts today. I stayed up too late watching that baseball game.
What up, everybody? I'm Bolo, and I am here to do some Boloing. Excited to be here. Rob Jones.
He just took some free workouts, so this could get interesting quick, but in the interest of saving time, let's get right into it. Topic one, your favorite topic to get spicy about, is sales training a waste if 84% of it is forgotten? Quiller's research, their team just dropped a truth bomb, which I think we already knew from the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. 84% of sales training is forgotten within 3 months. That's a lot. So why do we keep doing it? Is training fundamentally broken, or are we just implementing it wrong? 2 minutes starts now.
Yeah, training. I think we live in a reality that is no longer true. I think sales enablement, sales training was built for a sales floor that doesn't exist anymore. We used to be in office and you'd have these mosh pits and this, you call it like the pit, and it would be all your salespeople. And you could literally hear the best salesperson give their pitch and you could hear them. Or a sales manager would come tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you're doing something wrong, in the moment correction. And that no longer exists. Most teams today, unless you don't want to have employees, are distributed and remote. And the way a sales floor needs to be run has fundamentally changed because the way people learn and the way people train is different. So yes, if you ask me, is 84% of sales training? If it is, one time and expected people to retain information and change behavior, yes, it is a waste. It must be done different.
I agree with that, and I'm going to use one of my mentors has convinced me that you need to start with outputs first instead of inputs. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll use the CrossFit example, right? If the New York City Marathon is on Saturday or Sunday, it's this weekend. Training for that, if you've never run before, do you start marathon prep or do you figure out how far you can run and how fast and get a baseline? So in order to change something, change a behavior, you have to measure it. What training doesn't do is it starts with inputs first. We want you to do this thing, we want you to do this thing, and they forget about what it is they're trying to measure. So they measure the completion of the training like an LMS does. You check this box, you did this, without measuring, did this have an impact on behavior and outcomes? If the answer to that is no, then that would make a lot of sense. I would wager that about 84% of the time or whatever, no impact on the outcome, on behavior. But if it does have an impact, and the only way to get it to have an impact is to do it real time in the moment, as you're saying with the bullpens and sales enablement 1.0, that requires a different type of hands-on training. Ooh, and we knocked
that was good. So sales, to wrap it up, sales enablement 2.0, you must start with measurement so you know how to put the inputs. Let's move to the next topic. This is a big one. Atlassian just spent $610 million on the Arc browser, one of the most popular browsers. And it's a Chromium. 610 is essentially $1 billion in my mind. There's no difference between the two, even though it's
pretty close.
Their thesis, why did they do this? The browser is where work happens now, meaning that is nobody wants to switch tabs, and where work happens or where people are because you're fully remote. The question, is it true? Or is this just another tech fad disguised as a revolution? Desktop apps versus browser first. Choose your fighter. What do you think, Rob?
This is good money spent. Yes, it's browser first, and I say that as somebody biased. I'm not going to point to our logo in the background or the shirt or the hats that we're wearing, but we're a Chrome extension, and that's 100% true. Browser first is the new way. People are very uppity about this, and this is more kind of related to the downfall of SEO and Google search just being an ad, a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's vulture. I get zero results from this at all. But what a Chrome extension does, or what browser does, is remember the context and the different stuff that I do. So if they're putting cues and context there, and they're angling their user experience or their experience of the user through the lens of the browser, I think that's the way it's moving. I don't think OpenAI would have come out with their own browser. I forgot what it's called recently as well. It's Atlas. Whatever the hell it's called, this is the way to go. Chrome extensions and plugins and the way people use browsers has been the way for a long time. And that's why Google worked. That's why their business model for ads works so well. It's just not the same anymore when you have an LLM or AI as a counterpoint. But I think this was a good move by Atlassian.
I think the thesis is correct. I don't think it's necessarily a good move. So there is about to be a new war, and it's going to be the war, and the front of that war is going to be which browsers are used. In the past, it was a war between Edge, if you remember, Netspace, and Google Chrome, and then you have Safari. God bless Safari and Apple. You have these browser wars, and this browser war is nothing new. It's been fought before, and it's who can bring the most value to the people that have questions. And we're not going to stop asking questions. The point is, where does the question start? So when you have people executing on this, especially in what's changed, we're all remote and we're all distributed. Whoever owns the UI of where the question is will own the user interface and the user's wallet share. Good purchase, good bet. Chrome's going to win, and that's where our money is at the end of the day.
I think you're right. Good purchase, good bet. Whoever owns the interface for answering questions wins. That's a hot line, buddy. Next topic. I don't even want to ask this because I feel like you're about to explode through your computer screen. Do sales reps need AI, or do they need better process? Everyone's launching AI sales. There's literally an AI layer for everything, not as much of a process layer, but we'll get to that. Sumble raised 38.5 million, basically $1 billion in your mind. Zoom Info has Copilot. Google has Gemini. Gong has AI everything. But here's the question nobody's asking, do reps need better AI, or do they just need to follow the process they already have?
We have this belief, and I think there's an illusion of simplicity around AI. And the illusion of simplicity means I can have an input layer that I ask a question and it will give me an answer, or I can tell it to do something and it will do it for me. And that's the promise of AI. It feels really good at the individual level. I can change. I can even make topics for a show like this. It is very difficult to do that at the business layer. And so we talk about all these sales tools for AI. Is what it doesn't understand is the human advantage is where people will win in the sales process. People want less AI, they're going to want more human. So the question is, how are you going to add the human advantage into your process? And you will not know what is the human advantage until you're measuring what is working and not working. It very well may be your sales reps need to listen to the call, digest it, and send a recap email, and should not be done by AI. It should be done through a sales. I think all these people building AI are built on the premise of really good marketing AI and not really good sales AI. And everybody should be measuring first, then input second. And it's just it blows my mind. And I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a lot of money answering outputs first, measuring first.
Yeah, I almost view this in a weird metaphor of like the American political system, right, with the checks and balances. I view AI as very much as the legislative branch. It creates a bunch of stuff, right? But it is the question is more of like, how do you ensure that what you're doing with your process is being actually followed and enforced? Is it right? So the judicial and executive, is this right or wrong, and is this being enforced? Those two, AI will not win in. Now, can you write a 10,000 page blog in 10 seconds? Sure. Can you throw spaghetti at a wall and have something come out? You can do that. But it's, number one, very individualized. So the uses for them don't scale as well. And that's why you've seen stuff like MIT's study that says 95% of AI implementations fail. They don't fail for the individual. I love Claude, right? It works pretty well for me and it gets a lot of stuff done, and it increases the speed at which I'm able to ideate. But your Claude and mine would have different outcomes. And so the enforcement, like the process layer, as you say, doesn't exist yet. And that's what people need to bet on. By the way, we're halfway done. Switch.
Okay, go to next topic. This is a good one. I hate this. There are a few 3-letter words that we must not say. One of them is what I'm about to say. The LMS market is worth $5.23 billion, which is less than Elon Musk's net worth, by the way, just as a point. Companies are spending millions on platforms that track course completion, while reps forget, as we talked about before, 84% of what they learn. Is the LMS the problem, or are we just using it wrong?
So LMS, I believe, stands for look, ma, shit. I think I could be wrong there. Maybe it's learning management system, whatever it is, right? the thing that's wrong with LMSs are that people only learn how to circumvent the learning process, right? They're usually not in the flow of learning. They're usually only intended to check I mean, I love HR people, but it's usually intended for that. The most forgettable and regrettable ones they're the same, like sexual, like all of that. That's just, why do I have to do this? This is not, the situations like this would never arise. And that's an egregious example. And I'm sure there are outliers, but you're basing your training and behavior change tool on outlying cases and not actually getting results and to change the behavior. If you put one of those courses in front of somebody that is a habitual offender of very egregious things or commonplace, like not sending a recap, right, or not doing this thing in a sales process, the results vary, but they're usually only getting people to check a box, as this prompt said, or to figure out a way around the process that's been put in place. And I know you're about to destroy this, so go ahead.
LMSs are good at things. I want to be clear. LMSs are good at things. It's really good at CYA for corporate entities, where I can say I have given trainings, thus you can't sue me, and that's a very effective, useful. I would pay money for people not to sue me. It's, you have taken this course, thus you should not sexually assault somebody. It's not my fault; it's your fault. It's getting rid of excuses. Very effective. That's not behavior change. That is CYA, and I think that's a useful protecting corporates. Number two for LMSs is it's very useful when you have 4 years to learn something. LMSs, when you give people content and you can discuss it in live classrooms for education, like LMS platforms are very effective because they're always added with long-term projects where you're learning something in depth. So LMSs are effective. Where they're not effective is in B2B businesses trying to teach people specific behaviors and a process to be followed. I think the LMS system and the sales, specifically in the sales context, there is a ripe time to change. The big idea, by the way, of this is I can serve the content at the right moment, at the right time, exactly when they need it, and curated for them. That just doesn't matter unless you measure what's actually happening. Following process matters more in business than trying to teach them the right thing at the right moment, because you don't know what the right moment is unless you measure it. It's a catch-22. So
you're a CEO and multi-time founder, right? And I asked you this earlier. Do you care more about the individual performance and progression, or do you care more about the bottom line and the outcomes?
Yeah, and people don't like the answer. The answer is I do what is best for the company, and that is my purview. And that ends with and will always ends with bottom line of the company. So my job is to change behaviors with the least amount of effort, and getting LMS is not the least amount of effort, and actually it may not even be effective at all.
Well, the final word here is I think they'd be more effective if what the intended outcome was, instead of a learning management system, it was a results management system. Thus, the training and it would look at outputs first and measurement, and thus change results based on that. That's a $1 billion industry waiting to happen, but we'll save that for next episode. I think this might be our close to final topic. Should sales reps, here's one, be required to use AI tools? Some companies are mandating AI tool usage. You will use Copilot. You will be AI native. You will use Gong. You will automate. Others say, let them choose their own tools. Pick your poison. Why not? Who's right? Can you force innovation and, I guess, AI tool adoption, or does mandate kill adoption? You're up.
Adoption of anything, the first step is measuring and holding someone accountable to doing it. So if the question is it right or wrong to hold people accountable? I would say, yes, you need to hold people accountable. Yeah. Do you think that's going to be a competitive advantage? If you think it's going to be a competitive advantage, measure and say, have you done it? I'm totally for people holding people accountable for what you think is going to be in the future. I'm totally for mandating as long as it's a mandate with accountability and you hire and fire by it. Two, if you do not hire and fire by a mandate, it's not a mandate and you destroy culture. So number one, you must measure. And it always comes back to this. Adoption will not occur unless the output of what you want to happen is measured.
Yeah, I have this note from an earlier conversation that I had, which is it seems to be very much chicken or the egg, but there's a right answer, right? Standardizing outcomes is more important than standardizing behaviors. So I kind of take the middle of the fence here. I agree with you where if you're going to do it and it's more of an accountability question, sure, go ahead. But I would say if you're going to try to figure out if it's effective and helpful, you should run it across your entire team or the entire function rather than let people go rogue and be individually accountable, right? If you're trying to standardize outcomes and really test it across a team or multiple teams, then you should do it on a holistic basis, not just let one or two reps test
Yeah.
AI and one or two reps not deal with it at all.
If the question was how to do it, which is a different question to me, my recommendation would be if you don't have, the step number one is have a hypothesis based on the process you think will give you the best outcome, measure that process, and then tell reps, however you want to execute that process, do it. But here's the process, and here's how I'm measuring you. And it could be it could be no AI or good AI. And you never know what's going to happen. Maybe the best rep is the one that didn't use AI at all.
I hypothesis. You're not using science on me, are you? If then, and then you actually get results.
This isn't a topic we'll finish here. In World War II, they did this giant analysis of planes, and they were trying to figure out what were the planes that were least likely to
Return home.
come back and return home. And what do you do if you do that? What do you look at? You're like, oh, let's look at all the planes that returned home. And they would look at where the bullet holes were, and they're like, "Wow, we should really fix these bullet holes. They almost didn't come home because of these things." And so they fixed the bullet holes. And the whole point of this is that that actually shows where you were effective. And so it's really important that you have one standard. And what they actually did, they found, and this is a data scientist afterwards, like, "Hey, we did this wrong. What we need to do is go look at everything that crashed and find out what actually happened." And we cannot do it. This is changing. We can't, if your outcome, the thing you're measuring is everybody that comes home, you will come to the wrong conclusion. You must look at, let me see every rep that was sent out that was flying a plane. Here is what they went and did. And now let's find where the holes are, not just the ones that came back. That's what we do often. And that's what we think our inputs are based on.
I've seen this story multiple times just as an error omission or for me to get more clear. They were looking at that of the planes that returned home and then bolstering where the bullet holes were. What somebody individually deduced was that you don't need the spots where we don't see any bullet holes at all means that plane was crashed.
Right. Yeah.
So we need to put reinforcements here. It was like the fuselage, a couple places like on the wing. But those were the places that are critical areas. If you're struck by a bullet there, you're not going to make it back at all.
So because they weren't measuring the ones that didn't come back, they led them to a false analysis. Their inputs were wrong, and that was the conclusion. Was, oh crap, we need to actually have a proxy to think about why people weren't coming, which is what Rob said.
Shout out to you, Plane Doctor. You really saved our ass on that one by thinking critically. Last topic. Should sales managers, I don't even understand this, but it's what we got. Should sales managers be required to get certified in coaching? RAIN Group's research shows coaching is the #1 predictor of training effectiveness, yet most managers are promoted from top rep to manager with zero coaching training. Should we require certification, or is that just more bureaucracy, more in the LMS vein? You're up.
Certificate. Sorry, I'm flabbergasted that that's something that someone think about. The act of coaching is saying, here's what you should be doing, here's what you are doing, and here is the distance between the two. It's putting a mirror in front of someone. That's the act of coaching. We are beating this horse dead. How do you put a mirror in front of somebody? You measure their actions, and all you do is say, is this who you want to become? Because this is what you're doing, and you will become this thing if you aren't doing it. And you could take that analogy, you could put it towards, hey, I want to be a good writer. Okay, well, you don't journal and you don't spend any time reading books. So do you really want to become a good writer? I want to be a good rep. Well, you don't prospect and you don't send emails and you don't send Loom videos and you don't have anything authentic and you don't.
And your pipeline's not updated. Look, I'll interrupt because we have 50 seconds left. We're trying to keep the pardon the POV format here. Bill Parcells and Tom Coughlin both. I listen to a morning sports show every day, and Chris Canty on their Super Bowl champion for the Giants. He said that the greatest thing he ever learned from those two coaches in his career, like on the edge of Hall of Famer, was that great coaches show and get good men to do things they don't want to do in order to become great men. And I think that's applicable in almost anything. You want to become a great guitarist? Sure. Do you really? Because here's what you've been doing towards that outcome, which is not training, not practicing for an hour a day, not doing scales, not learning theory, none of that. Do you want to be good at sales, to your point? Well, yeah. Actually, you're not doing any of those things, or here's where the gaps are. So you start with like the desired outcome as being proficient or an expert or a virtuoso or whatever it might be, and help the people that are becoming fill in those gaps appropriately so that the outcome is more towards what they want.
So no, you don't need a certification. You need some really quick way to know, to measure and find out, are you doing what you want to do? And do you think you're going where you want to go? And so that would be my answer. No certifications needed. Better tooling's needed if you need more coaching.
I couldn't agree more. And we are officially out of time. Shout out to the Dodgers for winning an 18-inning marathon last night. Did you happen to catch any of that?
I don't watch sports games, Robert.
You didn't even have to answer. I know that. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Pardon the POV. I'm Rob. He's Bolo. And I guess the pre-workout hadn't kicked in quite yet, but we'll see you next time.
Adios.
BSTN.